Money splits kids apart all the time, and then there's the dynamics, and I think bringing in professionals like you and myself, we're just typically just cut and dry. Okay, let's start here with just kind of an introduction of who you are, how long you've been doing um, everything Medicaid, and how you got in, just how you got into it.
Sure. So, my name is Luann Sechrist, and I own the company Senior Planning Solutions, which is my pride and joy. And so I got started with this almost 14 years ago, and I worked for a company, and then I was able to branch out on my own. And with that, I show the love and compassion for my residents. And so, which we'll obviously get into that later. But so, yeah, I have just fallen in love with Medicaid. I know that's not something everybody says, but with the nursing home with Medicaid, I have just fallen in love with that. So I just continue to grow.
So you started out in a space where you were in a community and you did some back office stuff in the community. Is that correct?
I did for the company, yes. Yep, I was kind of on the back end, just learning about the applications, what the rules are. And so, yeah, I was the back end for probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And then I finally was like, you know what? Okay, I want to try this on my own. I want to try an application and see how I can do this and be more involved with the families. And so then that's what I did.
So your knowledge, I guess the question that I'm asking is like your knowledge didn't come from just overnight Googling some things and figuring out how to go from there, winging it. You weren't living on a prayer. You did the job in a space for quite some time to learn how to do all of this stuff on the back end, learned what the government needed to hear, learn what the communities, as far as if people were making a move into communities, and if they were staying at home. So that wasn't like an overnight thing that you learned. That this is your history kind of all coming together organically, right?
Definitely, definitely. And I mean, seriously, with Medicaid, it changes. And so, it's a constant education that I'm still learning, but no, it's taken several years to get to where I am. But yeah, it was not overnight. Not at all.
No, and you said that it's changing all the time, and as we know, everything is always changing all the time, specifically with all things in the government between bills getting passed, and there's a lot in the news right now about this specifically changing, and there's kind of fear out there. And this isn't something that the normal average person, if it wasn't their job, that they could keep up on,
Right.
right?
No, no, no.
Right. Like you spend your days probably following these things and following changes and all of those things. So this isn't something that anyone can just learn unless it's their job.
Correct, correct. I always kind of compare it to an accountant. I mean, that's what they do all day long. They know the rules, they know the regulations. And so that's me. I mean, I do Medicaid all day long, and I have a passion for it. So I think that kind of helps a little bit more too. But yeah, it's not an easy process. It's not something you can just jump into by any means.
You say that you have a passion for it. So I guess that's my next question is what inspired you to launch the Senior Planning Solutions back in 2012? Well, is that when you launched it?
So I launched it a year ago, but I
Okay.
was with another company, and that I started in 2012. I wanted to be I wanted to be more involved with my residents and my families. And so when I had the opportunity to go out on my own and branch out, that was my number one goal. I've always said, like, kind of one of my mottos has been, let's just have a table talk. I want to get to know them. I want to get to know all about their family, their pets, their children, what they do in their spare time, what they like, what they don't like. And so my passion and my drive is my residents. They're not a number, they're not a contract. They are human beings, and they have feelings, they have emotions, they have needs. And if their family members aren't able to help them with that, I mean, I have clients that their mom or dad is in a nursing home and they're in another state, and they can rely on me to go into that room physically and communicate with the parent. So that has been my goal, and what inspired me was that I just needed to show these individuals that there are people out there to help them, to advocate for them, and not set them in a corner and just leave them.
So it's interesting that you're taking more of the personalization, because that's exactly, the direction that I've gone to. Is it removes I feel like the factory work, it's just like one in, one out, one in, one out, where both of our businesses, I feel like the passion and the goal that we have behind them is it becomes very personal. It becomes very one-on-one, and we are learning their story. It's not just filling out the paperwork and sliding it across the table. Would you say that when you worked in whatever community and jobs before, people could get a hold of you, you talked to people, you helped them, but just the relationship wasn't there at the other jobs? So someone is sitting in your job prior to whatever that job was, right?
Right.
There is someone there helping people, but it doesn't have that connection.
Right. It doesn't have the TLC. It doesn't have these people trust in me, that they can call me and say, I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that, or can you help me with this? I mean, they trust me. They have confidence in me. And that's the connection that has to happen, because if you don't have that connection, you don't have anything. I feel like I could just go on and on about how I love my residents and my families. I mean, once I get them approved and then I'm not going to talk to them for another year, I almost get sad leaving the families. Obviously I keep seeing the residents when I go to the nursing homes. I always stop in and say hi. Some of them I take treats to or whatever. But I don't know. I cannot express how much these individuals mean to me. They're almost like a family member to me.
Sure. Yeah, no. And I think that that's what people need. And the business that you've created and the business that I have created, there's a gap. And that's why we both felt this need. I think I felt it in, when I was working just in straight real estate and then helping senior citizens. There was a gap there that I knew had to be filled. And it sounds like that's kind of how you organically went out on your own, is the same thing. You felt that there was a gap there. Yes. And it needed to be filled. And, as we move forward, we have the boomers that are turning 65. There's 10,000 boomers turning 65 a day. Over the next 20 years, there is going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of applications. There's going to be a lot of people that don't know how to navigate this system, the government.
Right.
And the government keeps it tricky. That's the part about the government that none of us like, is they keep everything confusing, tricky, complicated for the purpose of their benefit, not ours.
I agree.
And if someone makes a mistake on an application, I have heard from lawyers, it's problematic. If there's a mistake made, they're not just calling you on the phone saying, hey, can you clarify this? They're sending it back to you, and then you have to refill it out, guess what it is that you need to clarify, and then you send it back, and you're not going to get an answer for another potentially up to 4 months. Is that correct?
So if something comes back, let's just say that, there was a mistake on the application that the residents filled out, or the family member, and they send it back saying, this information is missing or whatever. They give you a certain date to have it into, but let's say that the date is the 25th. Okay, and we're proactive, and today's the 18th, and we send it in the same day. They're not going to look at it till the 25th, but they're also putting it behind all the other applications that are in. So you don't know when your card's coming up. So that's a reason why you do not want, it's not just fill out an application and send it in, because a lot of people think that that's the process for Medicaid. It's not. So there's a lot more to it than just filling out the application. But yeah, I mean, and it depends on, what the flow is right now, how many other applications are in ahead of you, and what the workload the caseworker has. There's so many ifs about it. Where I have worked with DHS for 13 years, I know a lot of the caseworkers, and I can reach out to them and say, hey, it's me. Let's get this moving. So I think that's definitely a benefit of knowing.
Oh, always having someone is a benefit.
Yes. It's good to have them in your back pocket.
Yes. Yes, as we know. And with the government, it sounds like it's even better. Can you recall a powerful experience in your history that defined why you're doing this work?
Yes, there was a case that a lot of family dynamics on both sides. And this side did not talk to this side. And so I became the mediator on both sides, because you have a power of attorney on this side and a power of attorney on that side. And so, long story short, we were able to get dad approved. But in the process, I was mediating on both sides. And then there came a time where I was like, okay, you know what? My calling is more than just this application, because I know these siblings love each other. What has happened in this family dynamic? And
money is always what happened.
Right. And when I had the case approved, anytime I get my cases approved, I meet back with the families face to face, and we just go over everything that needs to happen going forward. And I asked if both of them could come in together. And at the end of the meeting, they were hugging. And it was actually a very small, minute problem that actually got solved that day. And they thanked me for it because I mediated. I let them kind of vent and talk about it. And I talk to those clients, 6-7 times a year. And they're just very thankful. Not only did I help dad with Medicaid and get that done, but I kind of helped the family reconnect.
Right. And I think a part of that is a lot of emotions run high, but more so, money will be the first thing that splits families apart forever. Hands down.
Definitely.
And often I say, you know what, let's just get rid of all the money, and then your kids will be talking because there's nothing to fight about, right? Like after you guys are gone, if there's nothing left over, there is nothing to fight about. So
exactly,
let's spend it. Right?
And
go live your best life. But kids don't want to hear that. So, but regardless, no. I mean, money splits kids apart all the time. And then there's, the dynamics. And I think bringing in professionals like you and myself, we're just typically just cut and dry. Like this is what we have, guys. Without the emotions, we remove the emotions from the facts right now. And let's just stick to the facts. I know there are emotions, but let's stick to the facts. And once we get through those, I have a feeling everything will clear itself up. But there's a lot, and it's not always money. There's sometimes someone wants something for mom and dad that someone else doesn't want, and everybody has their personal stuff. But that's, I think, what we have to remove as the professionals that get involved.
Definitely. I agree with you. And once everybody knows that there's rules that we have to follow, I don't make the rules. This is just what the state is requiring. I think that kind of eliminates a lot of some of the dynamics also, because unfortunately those are the rules that we have to follow. So it's not,
and we don't have a choice.
Favor other people, but it's the rules.
Right. And they must be followed. So how would you describe the mission of your business to someone that's completely unfamiliar? Someone that has no idea that your business even exists. Describe your mission to me on how you would elevator pitch them to what you do.
So basically, when I meet with a family, I want to know what's going on. Not only with mom or dad or whoever we're putting into the nursing home, but what their life was about, what caused them to be where they are now. And then I just basically tell them, here's the things that I have to have, and here's what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to do the entire application for you. I'm going to walk you through the process. I'm going to take a lot off of your plate so that you can spend time with mom or dad. And you don't have to worry about the paperwork and this side of it. I'm going to handle all of that for you. I'm going to communicate with DHS. I'm going to get them the paperwork that they need on a timely manner. And I'm going to get mom or dad approved. And if there's any way we can preserve anything, then I will do that. But that's not always an option. But with a couple, it is. And I will explain to them the rules of how things can go. And yeah, just always be there for them no matter what it is, and make sure that their questions are always answered.
Right. And I think we can both agree that even though we are experts in our space, there are questions that we do not know the answer for. And that even goes back to, my real estate days, which I still do. I mean, I'm 10 years in, 1,000 transactions in. Everything is different. Everyone has a different scenario. And that's why on my show, for my listeners, we don't really get into the nitty gritty of each scenario because everything is different. There
Right.
is not one exact scenario. And for this specifically, not the same person isn't going to have the same assets, income, all the things. So there's no way for us to be able to give blanket advice that will be for every single person. However, what we do is we are able to call the right people to be able to get the answers. Most things we know. I would say that you and I both have more knowledge than most people out there in this industry. However, the things that we don't know, and there will be things that come across that we don't know, we know who to call. We can get the answers quickly.
Exactly. And I always say there's no handbook to this, and so like you're saying, every case is completely different. So, you can Google all day long of how to apply, of how to get it done. But if there's assets, even if there's small assets, you don't want to make a transaction that is going to just, come back and get you in the end. So, you call a professional for any legal work, for your taxes, a real estate. So that should also be with us too. We know this. We do it day in and day out, and we don't want to see those mistakes happen.
Right. And if mom and dad are already in a community, any kind of senior housing, and they're receiving any kind of government assistance, I think they do allow folks to live in spaces for a limited amount of time. But if they're not receiving that money after a certain amount of time, have you seen the consequences of what happens if we're not getting that money rolling in?
I have to admit, in the 13 years that I have been doing this, I have not seen anybody be kicked out or removed from a facility because of non-payment. However, that is, it can happen. But if you're working with somebody and you're showing that you're working with somebody, then, I think they're more apt to let things slide and go a little longer.
What is something that you do daily to be able to stay current on all of the complex Medicaid regulations and policy changes? I know that, we've talked about all of the stuff that's in the news and what's true, what's not true, what's red, what's blue, what's purple, and what's just plain confusing. How do you keep up to date on this, knowing exactly what is factual and what is just fear mongering? How do you stay on top of that?
So the nice thing is that since I have been dealing with DHS or HHS for so long, I am actually on their email. So when any updates do come out, when anything from the news does come out, I am on that list. And so I'm able to have access to the updates, to anything new that's coming out, any changes. So that does make it nice. That's not something that just anybody can be on. So that
and that's straight from their mouth. That this isn't like stuff that's getting, filtered in whatever direction. This is straight from whoever's the government's mouth. They're serving it to you.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
HHS letterhead, everything comes right to me. And The DH or the HHS caseworkers. Why did we have to change that?
Right.
uh, it's like tongue tied. But I will reach out to them all the time, and if I'm like, okay, is this really what we're saying here? Is this really what we're doing now? And they have no problems with answering my questions constantly, so I can go right to the source.
So, well, that's a great question. So, most people are not getting served this information, and right now there's just all this fear that
Mhm.
everything is going to change. Our elderly are going to be left on the streets. There's going to be no money. Is that true? Can you tell us what it is that you're seeing as the changes that are actually going through?
What I think, because I have to be careful how I say that, is happening is it's the medical Medicaid that they're focusing on, right? So I don't think that it is the long term care Medicaid for nursing home and assisted livings. Um, I think what will happen is instead of having a yearly review, because once a year after you're approved, then you have to do a yearly review. What we're hearing on that part is that that's going to be every 6 months instead of once a year. But I think majority of the changes for Medicaid is going to be more medical Medicaid as opposed to nursing home, because we can't get rid of nursing homes. I'm going to have a
No.
house full of elderly people and my clients because I'm not going to let them go out of the streets, you know?
Right. I mean, that's just not even a realistic.
No.
Honestly, us even thinking that, or the fear mongering out there that that's even an option to me, it honestly sounds silly because
Hmm.
it's just those folks cannot work. I mean, if anyone's ever walked through a nursing home or any kind of care facility, even assisted or whatever, those are the folks that we're not questioning on whether they can be out there working or not. I don't think the government is, going through those halls checking to make sure people are telling the truth or not telling the truth.
Right.
I just don't foresee that as something that's even on their table. You know what I mean? Like it's I think it's a way for whatever side to be able to create fear,
Hmm.
so then you get the votes, you get the people in one way or another. And I don't even, I honestly don't pay attention to the news enough because it changes every day, right? If someone people that sit there and focus on the news, focus on Fox, CNN, ABC, all of those, they are stressed out people because they are focusing way too much on whatever it is, the message that's being sent down and filtered through whoever's paying them to filter the message is stressful. And
Yes.
it's too much. So I try not to watch it, and I try to just, like you said, you have the facts in front of you, and from what you've seen and what you think, this is your opinion. You're not speaking on behalf of the government. Is that they're going to be watching the medical. So
Correct.
that does not include the people that we would be assisting. So I think that's great. Can you explain the difference between Medicaid planning and Medicaid pre planning?
Sure. So pre-planning is, so if you and your husband are like, if you're higher up in age, probably like your mid
What is
50s,
that age? Tell me what that age. Sorry, what?
mid 50, mid 50s.
Okay.
You need to start looking. I mean, everybody always says, I'm not going to go to a nursing home. I'm not going to go in there, but we don't know the future. So the best thing to do is at that age, should you be looking for long-term care insurance to pay in the nursing home when you do go, if you go, okay? So that's one thing to start with. Also, what do you have for assets? Do you have investments, 401k, stocks, bonds, CDs, mutual funds? Do you have farmland? Do you have a house? You need to go to an elder law attorney, which we can recommend a great one, and talk about an irrevocable trust. Because now I cannot talk about trust because I'm not an attorney, but an irrevocable trust is what is going to help preserve any huge assets that you have if you go into the nursing home, as long as you do it 5 years in advance, because there's the 5-year look back. So that's your pre-planning. And then your Medicaid planning.
So so not to interrupt you, I just want to clarify
Yeah.
that the look back is 5 years. So when we're talking about pre planning, we're talking about 5 years. We need to be thinking more than 5 years into the future for pre-planning, because that's the look back on if something were to happen, right?
Yes,
Is that correct?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. And everybody's like I said, they're always like, well, nothing's going to happen to me. We don't know if we're going to have a stroke and wind up in a nursing home. We just don't know. So it's better to have it planned and taken care of. And it's,
Right.
It's a lifesaver. But then just your planning is, okay, well, we didn't pre-plan. So here's all of mom and dad's assets, or here's mom's assets. And we need Medicaid, and we need it now. And that's usually what happens is we need it now, as opposed to, hey, we're going to run out of money in a year, 6 months. Then that's when, obviously I step in again and help you plan, like, okay, this is what our case is going to look like. This is how we're planning. This is how we're planning our spend down. This is how we're planning what we're going to pay off, what we can't pay, and when we will actually be on Medicaid. So
what would be the difference okay, so we've established you're not an attorney and you can't do trust and all of those things. What would be the difference between someone calling you and someone calling an estate attorney, as far as the level of what you're allowed to do and what they have to do?
mhm.
And what would be the benefit in them calling you versus them?
So the benefit of going with me is that this is who you get. It's me. And another thing is my fees are a lot smaller than attorneys. But I can do pretty much everything except for I just can't do the trust. If it comes to legal work, I do have an attorney that I work with, and he helps me with his with the legal allegation parts. But other than that, I can do everything that they can, and you get a
So
personal.
wills, power of attorney,
I can do power
or
of attorney, and I can do the Miller Trust if that has to come up. But wills, no, I pass off. Um,
okay.
Also, caregiver agreements, I can help with those.
What are caregiver agreements?
So a caregiver agreement is, let's say that your dad is in the nursing home, or excuse me, is out in the community. He's not in the nursing home yet. But everybody's seeing in the family that he needs just a little bit of help. Okay, so you have your sister that is not working because for whatever reason, good or bad. And she's running dad to the doctor's office. She's taking dad to the grocery store. She takes him to the post office, out to dinner. She comes over and cleans. She does his laundry. She puts him in bed. She fixes his meals. So those are duties that you can actually get paid for in the state of Iowa, is $20 an hour. So, but it's very specific. You have to have the caregiver agreement along with a spreadsheet that you provide what you're doing and how you're getting paid. So it's, the spreadsheet is kind of like your time clock so that dad can pay you for that. If once they go into the nursing home, then the caregiver agreement is null and void. But that's going to save you, as opposed to just having dad pay you. The state could look at that as dad has been gifting you all these years, and he could be penalized for that. If you have the caregiver agreement, that obviously provides, okay, services have been rendered and have been paid for in a legal way.
So the money that's being paid in the event that, because a lot of times when senior citizens are aging in place, it is their family that are taking care of these things, and that becomes kind of stressful.
Yeah.
You're a caregiver. You're no longer the son or the daughter or the grandchild. You're the caregiver. Let's say, grandkid is coming over and mowing the lawn and getting groceries and cleaning the house for grandma, and she's paying them $20 an hour. We're justifying the money that Medicaid is being spent? Is that because if you don't have the caregiver agreement and they look back and like, why were you giving your grandchild, $60 a week?
Mm-hmm.
They can penalize you, but if you have that in place, then they won't penalize you?
Correct, because they could consider, because when you are going through the Medicaid process, any money that is given to family members or other people, that could be considered a gift. And 9 times out of 10, it will be. and then you're penalized for that. So let's say that we get dad approved for Medicaid for the nursing home, and his bill is 10,000 a month. Well, they're totaling up that dad has given the grandchild $8,000 over the last, couple years. And so they will penalize you for that $8,000. So until that is actually paid back, then you cannot get approved. Once it's paid back, then you're approved. But if you have your caregiver agreement, then it's considered, for services rendered on the legal aspect.
Sure. Wow. Okay. So that is unknown, and that would really suck to find that out when you have to go into that space, into any kind of community, and they let you know that, you're being penalized because you didn't have the paperwork in place or whatever. And then you probably have to fight a bad fight
Yes.
of justifying it all. So all the things that I'm assuming people don't know.
No, no.
And they're finding out the hard way.
They are. They are. And a lot of times people are like, I don't want to take this money from my mom and dad, But you have to think about their aspect too. Because how many times do we do something and somebody helps us and you're like, I want to just give them a gift card or do something for them, right? I mean, you do that a lot. Just think how they feel. Even though you're still our kid, the kids, sometimes they want to be able to give that back.
Right.
So, whatever you decide to do with that money is up to you. But sometimes it also helps them mentally knowing that they're showing appreciation. So,
yeah. So yesterday we went to my grandma's house and we helped her do yard work. And I had to go to Walmart to get some vinegar and some other things to be able to take care of things. And she was determined. I mean, she was like, I'm going to pay you back for this. Oh, and then we had to take, on top of that, we cut down a bunch of trees, and to take it to the landfill, it cost $10 to dump it all. And she was determined she was going to pay me back that $10. And I was like, Grandma, you're not paying me $10. And she was like, I'm sticking it in your kids' pockets when they walk out of the door. Like, she was ready. And I'm like, Grandma, can you consider me paying you back for the ice cream sandwiches that you bought me as a child? Okay? Just like you took care of me then, I'm going to take care of you now. But yes, this is we're talking about a generation of people that don't want anyone to think that they are taking granted of them or they're making them feel like they're using them. They do not want anyone to feel that way. And so I can understand that the desire to make sure that they want their family, let's be honest, they would rather have their grandkids over there helping them, their kids. They don't want to have outsiders coming in their house, but they want to make sure their family doesn't think that they're using and abusing them in any way. I don't think anyone would feel that way, but I think it's the perception of the generation that we have right now. The silent generation and the boomers are the ones that we're kind of, this is our demographic that we're talking about.
Definitely. I mean, that's just what we have to look at and respect, that's how they grew up, and maybe we should be doing the same at some aspects, But, and then we just have to respect that because, like, even if it's the $10, I mean, put it in your pocket and take her out for ice cream in a couple weeks and she's never going to know, like, right? It's just a complete cycle. But yeah, it's just who they are. And I don't know, sometimes it just makes them feel so much better. So
yeah, I would agree. The difference, it's huge, but it even comes to them not wanting to go into care, because I think you and I talked about the senior communities. There's a difference. We have senior housing, and I would say senior housing goes all the way up to long-term care, and then long-term care would be at like the medical facility. The places that the communities that we talked about that are like cruise ships on land, those are not facilities. Those are not medical facilities. Those places are not taking what we're talking about. Like, they're not taking Medicare, Medicaid, all of those things, correct? Like, you're talking about, when you're saying nursing home, what you mean is nursing home. The spaces that need nurses around the clock. They need medications. They need all of their ADLs. They need people in there. Sarah lifts, Hoyer lifts, the CNAs. That is the spaces that Medicaid will pay for. Medicaid is not paying for 55 plus independent assisted. They do pay for memory care.
Some assisted living will do the elderly waiver, which is just like Medicaid. I mean, it's Medicaid, but it's out in the community. So anything outside of the nursing home is community. You're assisted, you're independent, you're 55 or older. But no, they'll just do assisted living.
So what would the difference be if someone comes to you and they need the elderly waiver? Is that in your wheelhouse too?
Oh yes, yes. I have several of those right now that I'm doing too. But there's
Okay.
just not every single assisted living will take the elderly waiver.
So the one that I have been specifically honing in for a client right now, this is what I think is an important message to get out to senior citizens. Communities will take elderly waiver if the client is already a resident and they've been a long time client. I don't know how to put this in any other way, so I'm just going to say it as I know it. People that come in and they pay their private money in these spaces and they run out of their private money, they outlive their own money. The senior community is not kicking anybody out if they are outliving their money. They are simply just switching them over to elderly waiver. Nobody knows the difference. Literally nobody. They're not sending them over to a hallway that says this is our government money coming in and this is our private pay money coming in. You do not leave your room, but
No.
they are honoring the time that you put in with your private money,
Mm-hmm.
and you are still their resident. And I think that's important for people to know that you don't want to go burn your money, your private money, on something else and then not have that time. Everywhere is a business, and you need to be able to say, yeah, I put my money in here and this is where I'm living my last chapter. This campus has everything I need, from independent to assisted to, if for some reason I need respite and skilled, to long-term care, to memory care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, I think, the communities and the spaces that are going wrong is they aren't building campuses that have all of the layers of care, because you're not able to service everybody. And in that age, if people are 80 to 100, they don't want to move. Their families don't want to move them. So being
Right.
able to have a campus that everything is in-house, you go there, you pay your private money, and if you outlive your money, they are keeping you.
Mm-hmm.
However, they will not accept you if you're going straight in from the elderly waiver.
There are some that do. One of my residents, she is actually on a wait list, and we are going to get her elderly waiver. We're working on her elderly waiver now, even though she's still at home, but she needs the services. And then that way, when her number is called, then she's already got her elderly waiver, and so she's good to go. But there's not a lot
Right.
like that.
There's a wait list.
Yes. Yes.
So what is she going to move into? Which level?
Assisted.
Right. Which is great. That assisted level or assisted living, is allowing that elderly waiver. However, how long is the wait list there?
I think there's about 4 in front of her.
I mean, how many months is that? What does that look like? I mean, at this point, sadly, you're waiting for, 4 deaths. You're waiting for 4 people to decline, and they have to move to a different, to the long-term care.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels ick.
It does.
I would assume we've got to wait for 4 people to do something, and this something is not good. Rarely do you go from assisted to independent. That doesn't
Right.
happen.
Right.
So we're waiting for, sadly, a decline or a death for you to be able to get in there. And 4 people could be months.
Oh,
But also, right, while they're declining, you are too, potentially. And this goes back to the realtor in me. People need to have an asset to be able to get into these places. The folks that don't have a house, they don't have anything. What is their plan? And I talk about this in other spaces. If relying on the government is your plan A, we're in trouble.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%.
Right. And I think that that's the worst plan someone could have, and not having something to sell and, waiting on a wait list. Like, what do you do if you don't have family and, you get hurt? Let's make up a scenario here. Let's say we have a 56-year-old woman, single, lives in an apartment, living paycheck to paycheck. She has a stroke. Now what? She can't work. She's in the hospital. She doesn't have family that can take her in. Tell me what she does.
Well, since she's 56, to go on facility Medicaid, you have to be 65 or older or disabled. So she's going to have to sit in that hospital and go through the process of getting approved for Social Security disability, which that is another thing I can do. And that takes, oh my gosh, it can take up to a year. It can take 9 months to get Social Security disability. But she'll have to get that. And then, I mean, there are some nursing homes that take Social Security pending, which is not a good thing to do because you never know which coin you're going to get on that. But then that's her scenario. If she can't go back home alone, then she's going to have to sit in that hospital until this goes through. And then she can get in the nursing home and get on Medicaid.
And is there, for crisis situations, is there a system a different number that you call, a different button that you click to expedite, or nope, we get in line right behind everybody else?
You get in line just like everybody else. Now,
Right.
if you have somebody like me helping you, I'm going to know what paperwork needs to be sent in for your Social Security disability application. I'm going to know, what we need to do to expedite it and get it going quicker.
So hospital social workers exist.
Mhm.
I don't know as if they are doing, this kind of in-depth stuff. I would imagine that whatever floor they work on, the manager is saying, we've got to get these guys out of here because, hospitals overfill. They need beds. They need spaces. They are getting paid by someone while that person is waiting there, but that doesn't always mean that they just want someone sitting there for longer than they need to be. As far as hospital social workers, what would you like to be able to tell them? What would you like to say to them as far as like, how can you help them be able to expedite these things and, get people off their floors to get that nurse manager off their back about needing that bed?
I would love to sit down with them and tell them I can come in and assess them financially to see if they're eligible for Medicaid and what we need to do, how I can get them out of there quicker, how I can call nursing homes and get them placed for them right now. But I can literally come in and do an assessment with them, and I could probably have them discharged within a day or two, if not quicker.
Right.
And
Just
so,
knowing the people that you know.
yeah, yeah. And just, being able to look at their assets and be like, okay, this is what we have to do for Medicaid. So let's get moving and get you out. Here's the other paperwork that I need. I can run and get it for you. I mean, I can be at their beck and call and help them get things done quickly if they want that. Sometimes I can seem a little pushy, but it's because I want to get it done and I know what needs to happen. And so, yeah, I wish that the social workers would reach out. I mean, not only to me, but to you. I mean, I think we could both get people out of the hospitals because if they don't need to be in there, we need to have them out.
Well, they don't want to be there either. You know what I mean?
No.
Like the
Yeah. They're like,
patients do
get
not want to be in the hospital.
No,
Right. I mean,
no.
talk about the beeping I don't want to say invasion of privacy like it's a bad thing, but if you're in the hospital, most likely your vitals are getting checked every 4 or 8 hours. Like if you're on monitoring, I think it can drop to 8, but mostly it's every 4. So if you want a good night's sleep, you're not in the hospital.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
I agree
So
with you.
nothing that anyone wants to stay in. Okay. So, I'm just going to kind of spitfire some questions at you. And these are the most asked questions that people are putting in Google. And we're just going to go through them and you're going to give us our answer as far as, kind of the short paragraph of the answer. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. How do I qualify for Medicaid long-term care coverage?
So, what we would have to, it would just basically be an intake. I figure out what your income assets are and then what our spend down is going to look like. If we need to cash anything out, if we need to assign anything. And then once we have all that done and have you down below 2,000, that is your income, or excuse me, that's your assets, anything that you have below 2,000, checking, savings, anything. Then we can go ahead and send the application in to get you approved.
What is the income limit for Medicaid in Iowa?
2,901, and that's gross. So if you have anything over that 2,901, then we have to do what's called a Miller Trust.
Single or couple? Is that single or couple?
Both.
Okay.
So it's the resident that is in the nursing home that will have to, if they're over the income level, they will have to have the Miller Trust.
What if they're at home?
So the resident so if the husband is in the nursing home and his income is over the 2,901, then he'll have to have the Miller Trust, but the spouse at home does not. We only go off of the individual that's in the nursing home.
Okay. Well, that's also important to know, because when you're filling out those applications and it's talking about all of those things, there needs to be a clear divide. The lawyer that both of us trust and that we talk to talks about how that's what kind of gets tricky on those applications is there's some things that you don't have to disclose that maybe you don't know, as far as, like, if you have a couple that got married, 20 years ago, and they have a lot of stuff from both their personal past, you don't have to divulge all of that, correctly? Or can you explain that?
So you do have to disclose what the spouse at home has. I mean, you disclose everything just even out, what she has, what he has. Now, if things were done 5 years ago, you still want to disclose that it was done or that it was there. But again, we're in that 5-year look back. The state does not look or accept prenuptial agreements. So if that is anything that a couple does have, sorry, it's not going to work out. Unfortunately.
Right, because that wouldn't work. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, you do have to disclose everything that the couples have. The rules are a little different for married couples because there's a little bit more loopholes to go through with there's more ways to preserve assets for the individual that's at home, which is nice because then they are able to still live.
What is the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust? Does that have anything to do with that?
So again, I can't talk a lot about trusts, but it's basically, to my knowledge, it's just the wordage of an irrevocable trust. So basically what you're wanting to be able to preserve now for your 5-year look back. So any trust that you do, you want it for Medicaid purposes, you want to do an irrevocable, not revocable, because you can cash that out. That's considered an asset, the revocable.
Right. Which is where people don't want to get that wrong. If for some reason my husband goes to the nursing home, will they take my house from me? Do I have to sell it to pay for it?
No. They cannot force you to sell anything. You are allowed to have one home and one vehicle, single or married. But what happens is that, because there is the horror story, they're going to take my house, they're going to, make me sell it. What happens is, let's say that the spouse in the facility passes away. Okay. She's going to get a nasty letter from the state saying, "We're so sorry for your condolences. However, you owe us $150,000 because that's what we paid towards his care." What happens is, if you still have that house when mom passes, the state, it's called a state recovery, will be when that house sells, has access to that first $150,000. So but they will not make you sell it. Now, if you have 2 houses, we've got to get rid of one.
Yeah, to sell that. But they do put a lien on the house, correct? Right? So in the event that happens, dad goes and dad passes away, they sell the house. Now, let's say mom passes away in the house. Now, the kids can either pay it back or the state takes the house.
they don't take the house, they wait for the sale to happen. But if mom sells the house before she passes, then the house is gone. So, but then they still
The proceeds from the house. The proceeds from the house are
yeah.
gone. Yeah.
I mean, they'll look at, okay, you still owe us this money. What does mom have money in a trust? Does she have it in a savings?
So they're not going to kick you out of the house. They're
No.
not going to kick you. Not to interrupt you. So I want to make the message clear. If your spouse has to go to a care facility and have full medical care, nobody is kicking you out of your house. Not the government, not your kids, not the nurses in the nursing home. Nobody. You
No.
get to stay there.
Yes.
And you get to stay there as long as you want to stay there with no repercussions. But there is, I think, a lien. You said that they're just going to be watching. You'll get your letter. But if you sell that house for any reason, they will be coming for whatever you owe them as far as the assets, the money.
Once the last parent passes away.
Yes. And if that parent passes away in the house, the kids will be the ones left with a surprise.
Correct.
Yeah. But nobody's getting kicked out of the house. I think that's the important part.
No. Nope.
Yay.
Absolutely not. I know. Yeah, you're able to have one home and you're able to have one vehicle. So, the state's not trying to bleed you dry. They're not trying to take everything. We have to look at the aspect that they are paying for our loved ones' care. And so it's a double-sided sword. There's so many people that are like, oh my gosh, the state wants us to do this. They want us to do that. But look at what they're providing. I think that's the missing piece here is that the state is providing so much. Are nursing homes amazing? They are. I mean, are the walls perfect? Is the smell perfect? No, but you have individuals in there that absolutely love your parents 24/7. And that's not something we can give. So I think a lot of
yes.
stuff like that.
I do think that the only stigma around facilities, but even housing, is they suck you dry. Well, doesn't everything suck us all dry?
Right?
The grocery store sucks us dry. Everything sucks us dry. But at the end of the day, we are paying for a service, and the service is coming with nurses, housekeepers, people people. There's literally a handyman that they have on staff in the good spaces. There's an admin to make sure that whole building is running by code, by making sure that we're getting background checks, making sure that everybody that's working in that building has a good standing license. There is so much that goes into running those spaces. You have chefs, you have the food, you have everything that isn't free. And when it comes to, those places taking all of your money, you could look at it like that, or you could look at it like the money that we're paying is feeding all of those nurses' families. It's paying for, the handyman's family. It's paying for the salary of the chef and everybody else that's helping the people that do the dishes there. There is so many people in those spaces. It takes so many people to make one of those places run and run good.
Yeah. That
it may feel like they're sucking you dry, but they're not just pocketing that money and going to Aruba. They're paying for these families to be able to survive. So I do think that there's this stigma that's just, negative, but it's not.
No. And, the things that those nurses, not only the nurses, but I mean, honestly, the things that they do, it warms your heart when they come in and they're like, oh, hey, Mary, they know your loved one. And I mean, they provide for them, they care for them, and a little, hey, thanks for what you do, or even when it's long-term care week or assisted living week, you've got to show that to them. And like you said, I mean, it's paying for salaries. It's not that they're just taking it all and, I think that concept, Yeah, that concept has missed a lot of what they actually do get. Because if we sat here, like you said, going to the grocery store anymore, I mean, it's like take out a small loan just to buy food for a family of four, right?
Right.
And so if you added up that for an entire month, all your groceries for the month, a handyman, if you hired nurses to come in, if you hired for your electric bill, your laundry, somebody to shower, I mean, that is going to be way over what you're paying at a facility.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you have Medicaid that comes in and help. So I think a lot of these negative comments that people are thinking and hearing and saying, they need to be reversed a little bit, because if it wasn't for Medicaid, you may have to quit your job and stay home and take care of mom. And that's not
Right.
healthy for anybody. You can only
Well,
take
not possible.
right. And you can only take care of somebody for so long if that's not your thing.
And do you want to become your parents' caregivers? Do you want to be helping them on the toilet and showering, and it gets to the point that they're bedridden, you're changing their pads, you're doing everything, and you're doing it with passion. You're not getting mad and angry, because that's typically how that happens. You start feeling a little burned out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the other thing that I think is important is when I worked as a CNA, so I got my CNA license when I was a senior in high school, and then I worked in that position through college. We were the only people that some of those residents saw. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like I was working full time, and families are not popping in and coming and going. And right, they're busy. They have their own things going on. But those residents become very accustomed to their nurses and the CNAs and the LPNs, the RNs, the activity staff. We forgot to add them in too. They hire people to come and just do activities to keep mom and dad moving. They have therapists that come in there to make sure that they're not getting their motion in all of their joints and their arms and whatever. These are all things that are getting covered, and those salaries are getting paid out. And those physical therapists, the OT, the PT, the speech therapist, which exist in those spaces, they are people that have doctorate degrees.
Yeah.
They're not. They also have high salaries on those guys too. It's like this stuff isn't cheap.
Mm-mm.
And if you say, well, mom and dad don't leave their room, they don't do the OT, the PT, the activities, well, they should, because they're paying for it. There's
Definitely.
not like an
Exactly.
all. Right, right. So I think that's important. That the stigma of that has to stop.
It does. It really does. And, when you walk into a nursing home and, you see a resident sitting there and they're talking to the administrator or talking to the receptionist, it's those small things that make them feel so important and fills their cup every single day. And, yeah, the repetition of them seeing the people that they know and that they have started to love, that's priceless. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put a price
Yeah.
tag on that.
No, and if you're not visiting your parents every single day, or your grandparents, if something is slipping, their memory, if there's something wrong, it's going to be those people that are there every single day that begin to notice these things. Whether Mrs. Smith gets out of the bed on the left side every single day, but she got out on the right side. They're noticing these things to be able to put their finger on something's wrong, which is
Mm-hmm.
not something you could do if your parents are sitting at home isolated by themselves. You could go days, weeks, months without someone noticing that something's wrong with grandma or mom, because they're not there every day to see it. And certainly, they're not going to be like, I got out of bed on the other side or I got out of bed on the other side today. I think there might be something wrong with me. Kind of misses the whole, purpose of them having something that's slipping. So I just
Right.
think that there's not enough appreciation. There's not enough credit given to those spaces and those nurses and those CNAs and those admin, and really the CNAs. I mean, I did
Oh,
it for a long time in college. They are the ones that are in those rooms, actually with those residents day in and day out, doing the hard work, the heavy lifting. And nurses are, the RNs and the LPNs, they're giving the medication and they're doing the wound dressing and tracheing and, changing catheters. They're doing that more medical necessary stuff. But those CNAs, they're doing the
Mm,
hard,
they
the heavy
are.
lifting.
They are. And it seems like they come to work with, because you could definitely come to work and be like, ugh, I have to listen to them groan about their feet hurting again. You know what I mean? But it's just, they come with a smile and they're happy and they tell the residents about their lives of their kids and their animals and whatever. And kind of on a side note, this just popped in my head. I know it is so hard to finally bite the bullet and have to admit a loved one. When I first started, one of my second cases that I did, it was two elderly ladies, and they lived together. They were best friends, and she had to admit her best friend into the nursing home. Neither one of them had kids. Neither one of them were ever married. And so I became close to the one that was at home. Very close. I would go and visit her in the evenings or whatever, and got to know her very, very well. Well, then she's obviously starting to decline. And so I became her power of attorney, and I had to admit her into the nursing home. And that day I experienced exactly what everybody goes through. And it's hard. It is so hard. So not only do I understand the Medicaid side, but I also understand admitting a loved one. It's not easy. It's hard. And I'm glad that I can help people get through that process too. So that's what I can advocate in so many ways, and I can be a huge shoulder for them. And I guess that's what I absolutely love about all of this, is that, I don't know, I can go on and on about the love that I have, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry, that was just kind of a side note, but it popped in my head and I thought, I know what they're going through. I understand it. So,
Yeah. Well, it's a project, and I say that, adult kids become a project manager
mhm.
when um when they're doing this, and I think that's why they put it off and they put it off and they put it off, because it's daunting. It's
Yep,
daunting if you don't know.
it is. It is.
So this kind of goes back. The next question I have is, can I qualify for Medicaid if I own a home?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So you can own a home and be on Medicare. Is this the point too where they would, if you, whatever money that you get, would they take it back? Is that something that they're collecting against the sale of the house?
So let's say that we have mom approved for Medicaid, and it's just mom. She's single and she's in the nursing home, and we exempted her home while we're approving her for Medicaid. Well, then 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, the kids are like, you know what? We're paying for the taxes. We're paying for the insurance. We're paying for the utilities because mom can't afford it. So we need to sell the house. Okay, great. So we list the house. And she's on Medicaid at this point in time. We list the house, and then we get a bite. Well, we only want to sell on a certain date because we have to submit a form. I would have to submit a form saying that there's been a change, 10-day report change. Get that sent in, that the house is sold, and now we have $100,000 worth of money that we have to spend somewhere. So we have that 30 days to spend it down the appropriate way, or we get kicked off Medicaid, we private pay until that's gone, and then we go back on Medicaid. There are ways that we can do that spend down. Is there things that mom needs in the facility? Has she incurred any bills that she can't pay? Has the family, do they have funeral plans? So there's a lot of ways that we can spend that down, and I can help do that. So that would be the aspect of if we sold it, while she was on Medicaid, and how that would go. So, but yes, you can have a home. It's just if it's just the single person, it's hard to afford that, right? Because most of your income minus $50 or any healthcare premiums is going towards the facility.
Right. How much money can I have and still get Medicaid?
$2,000. So you have to be below the $2,000 mark for single.
A
For
month or overall? Are we talking about, I guess, assets, or is that just your monthly?
That is your assets. Your assets have to be below 2,000. So that's any investments, what's in your checking and savings, all of that has to be below 2,000. And it
Wow.
gets tricky because, does any income come in on the first that's going to make you over resources during the approval
Right.
process? Some income that comes in at the end of the month, that's considered for the next month. So that's where when I send people their checklist that I have, for me, bank statements are huge because I mean it's kind of like your Bible, right? It tells you exactly what I need to know. It tells me exactly where I need to start your case and how we can do the spend down process and how it's going to look at the end of the month when this income is coming in. Is it going to put us over resources or not? So bank statements are huge.
So I want to talk to the people that are on the gravy train right now.
Hmm.
The people that are taking their parents' money and they will get caught.
Yes.
I think we've both talked about this before, as far as we've both seen situations where we have adult children who are basically taking advantage of their elderly parent, the money that they're receiving. Mom and dad, mom, is not able to pay the bills because their adult children are taking these checks and doing whatever with them. And we call it the gravy train.
Hmm.
It does not last forever.
No, it does not.
No, because we will start questioning it. You have started questioning it. And the scary part is the law enforcement is checking it.
Yes.
What law enforcement agency is that would begin that research or that investigation?
It is you. So I am a mandatory reporter. And so if I suspect it, I will talk to the child about it, give them the opportunity to say, okay, this is what I did. Okay. In some scenarios, it will be, mom has told me that she wants me to take money for helping her. Okay. Okay, we can't. And then, that's why I always say, tell me what's going on. Because there may be some miscommunication, some mishap, or whatever. There could be a totally different situation. But 9 times out of 10, they're like, nope, I've been taking it. Okay, can you put it back? Nope. Okay, here's what we have to do. I have to report this. Are there some that are like, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I have to call the local authorities and then it gets handed off to them and then they deal with it. They take care of it. Are people prosecuted? Absolutely.
Right. I mean, I think I've seen a woman go to jail for taking your
Yes.
mom's money. It's a
Yes.
thing. You cannot steal your parents' Medicaid, Medicare, anything that they are getting. If it is not yours, you
Right.
cannot take it. You cannot live on their gravy train. Not just hear our words.
Yeah.
You
It's
will.
elder abuse.
Right.
And so, yeah, just don't do it. And if you have, correct it and don't do it again.
Because you will get caught.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
will get caught.
That's why a caregiver agreement needs to be in play. So if if mom is wanting you to be paid, let's do a caregiver agreement. And then and that's what I'm saying is that DHS looks at that like, okay, we have a contract. So you can get paid
But it
for
has to
it.
be legit. I just want to
Exactly.
clarify that with people. It has to be legit. The authorities, they're not dumb, and it can all be tracked.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, let's talk about the Medicaid 5-year look back period. We've
Hmm.
already talked about that in regards to what it is. What happens if I transfer money or property during that look back period?
So that goes back to, um, Okay, let's say that mom has been in the nursing home or is going into the nursing home and going on Medicaid. And she decided to transfer her life insurance policy over to you that is 50,000. As long as the face value, whatever the face value is on that life insurance policy, she's going to be penalized that amount. So again, that amount has to be paid before her Medicaid will start. So if it's a $30,000 face value, that $30,000 will have to be paid to the nursing home, and then her Medicaid can kick in. So the penalty is whatever the amount that was transferred, that was given away, that amount has to be paid to the nursing home in order for Medicaid to pick up, as if it's in that 5-year look back.
Right. Period. But 61 months, you're good. 59 months, you're not good.
Right.
That's
why we want to start pre-planning at 50 or 55.
Right. Yes. I mean, you're exactly right, because you just never know.
Yeah.
So the next question is, will I be penalized for gifts or financial help to family members? And that's where we're talking. We've already talked about this. We've already hit this. I feel like we're beating, this. You have to have that caregiver agreement, because otherwise, yes, you will be penalized.
Yep.
How can I protect my assets from nursing home cost? Probably the number one Googled thing. However, I think the answer is you can't protect them all. You have to pay people. If you have the money, if you have the asset, you can't just give your money to your kids and then go live off of, the government in the nursing home. That's not how it works.
If you are a married couple, and you have assets out there, there is a way that you can preserve and protect. It is a Medicaid compliant annuity. Only certain advisors and attorneys do these. And there's certain ways to do them. I have people that do my Medicaid compliant annuities, but it helps the individual that is at home to still have the income coming in and not have that income gap. So if you have assets and you're married, we should get together and we can talk about how that will look, because obviously I don't want to go into complete details about it, but again, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't disclose all that, but I know the basics of it. And
we know who to call.
Yes. Yeah. So that is one way that you can preserve, is if you're married. If you're single, you can still do these annuities, but you want to have quite a bit of money. But it opens up a can of worms that just does not need to be opened. So that kind of goes on to, I do offer a free consultation. So if anybody is like, man, I don't know, maybe I should be talking to her, reach out. We can do a free consultation and just see where you're at. And if I think that you need to go to our attorney, then, I'll direct you towards him.
Yeah, I think that the hardest part about this whole thing is there's no way for us to actually give examples, except for, like we could give a made-up example, but that really isn't going to answer questions for people that have specific questions about their own situation, because everybody is different.
Right.
Can a trust help me qualify for Medicaid?
If it's an irrevocable trust and it has been done in the last 5 years.
Yes.
Yep.
This is a good one. Should I put my home or savings in my children's name?
No, because that's considered a transfer of assets. Now, if you did it 5 years prior, it's not going to be. But at that point, you might as well just put it in a trust, in an irrevocable trust.
Right. And it actually, I did a podcast with our estate attorney the other day, and the answer is no. If for some reason you put your children's name onto your stuff, in case something happens to you, they have immediate access, right? That's the idea. However, if something happens to the child, whether it's a divorce, if they're not married and single, if they get in a car accident and they get sued, if anything happens to your child and their name is on your stuff, there goes your stuff that your child is, claiming to own. So there's risk. I think that that would be a horrible solution in the event that anything happened to the child. And like I said, people could say, oh, they're not married, they're single, so no divorce taking it. Yeah, but if they drive a car, if they do anything that could happen to you, me, anybody, they are liable to have to pay out that in the event that they owed anybody money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the answer is no, don't do it.
Do not.
Do not do it. Right.
No.
Can my spouse keep our home or okay, we answered that one. Can my spouse keep our home or car? Yes, they get to keep one of each. Can children be responsible for their parents' nursing home cost? Ooh, that's a good one. Is there ever a time that children be responsible for their parents' nursing home cost?
Um, there can be. I mean, if you are, if you're signing your parents in to the nursing home, you could be held liable if a bill's not being taken care of. If you're their power of attorney and the bill's not being taken care of and being paid, that can fall back on you.
Which is more reason to call you to make sure that money's coming in.
Exactly. Exactly. And how much do I need to be paying during the process of the Medicaid? Because you still have to pay, even though we're applying for Medicaid, you still have to pay that client participation. The client participation is what is owed to the facility each month during the Medicaid process and when they are on Medicaid. And how that is figured is it's their gross monthly income minus any health care premiums, and then minus the $50 if you're a veteran, that's 90, and then whatever that total is, that's what they wind up paying. Which brings another aspect to this, is that if they are a veteran, or if they were married to a veteran, veterans, they have benefits out there, and those have to be applied for even on the Medicaid process too. So, and I have connections with that where the VA rep will come right out to you and take care of everything. So that's another.
Which is fantastic. I actually just did some VA benefits for my grandma that she didn't even know that she got from my grandpa being a World War II veteran. The rep told me that there's 184,000 applications sitting in the queue right now waiting to get approved, which didn't make me feel good. I'm hoping that things change, that we start getting a big rubber stamp for those. But that's also kind of scary. How long do you see that taking for even VA stuff to get approved?
It takes a while. I mean, you could look at 9 months. You could look at a year. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot out there. And the sad thing is that the veterans don't realize some of the benefits that are out there. I mean, our cemetery in Van Meter, I just recently learned that the spouse can be buried there for $300 with their veteran, with their loved one. I didn't know that. And that's a beautiful cemetery that, they deserve. There's just so many things out there for the veterans that people don't know about. And
Right.
they definitely deserve that. So
Right.
VA questions I can answer, or I can find the answer out for you.
Right. We know the person. Exactly. And this is another thing is the normal public only do this for 2 times, probably max, maybe 4 if their parents are remarried and they're taking care. But we are doing this every day.
Mm-hmm.
So we know the systems. We know who to go. If you're only doing this a few times every once in a while, you'll never learn. You'll never be able to keep up on all of the things that you need to know, and knowing all the things that you need to know.
Right, right. And if you have a disabled child, I don't know if I mentioned this before, if you have a disabled child, there's hoops for them. So there's another little
Right.
tip.
There's always the hoops, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
When should I start Medicaid planning? I think we answered this as well, but I just want to make sure we hammer this. There's a difference between pre-planning and planning. When should that all start?
So if you're pre-planning, you want to start looking at that about 50 or 55, especially if you have a lot of assets, farmland, anything like that. If you have a loved one that's in the nursing home right now, you need to be reaching out to me when they have about 60,000 in their account, if they have that. If not, I mean, the bottom number is 20 to 10,000. Be reaching out to me because we need to get rolling.
Right. Because you never know how long it's going to take.
Right. And even if you're in the hospital with a loved one and they're not even in the nursing home and you're like, I think, we're going to have to admit them, but I don't know where to start. Call me. I will come to the hospital. If you're in Iowa, I'll come to the hospital and I will sit down with you. Even if you're not in Iowa, I mean, I can work different states. I can't work Florida, but I can work all other states. But let's talk about it when they're in the hospital. Both of us can help people find places where to go. And so, yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. No
Right.
question.
I mean, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Do I need a lawyer for Medicaid planning?
No, you need me.
Right. Right. And I think the lawyers try to hire you, but
Yes, he did.
it's,
He has tried to hire me several times.
rightfully so. He knows how much knowledge you have and how helpful you could be to his base. And I don't want to speak for estate lawyers, but the stuff that you could be doing is probably not their favorite thing to do because there is, the trust and all of those things that much more complicated that need that degree, that need that very high level education to understand the how deep that stuff goes. And that
Hmm.
that's probably where they thrive. I don't know
Definitely.
if, him filling out and doing Medicaid and elderly waivers is what he wants to do. I know he does it, but I know that if you can find someone that's cheaper, it's probably a better option.
Well, and his expertise is like you're saying, is the wills, is the trusts, and making sure that all of that is done. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we definitely bounce off of each other and value off of each other.
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's so much power in both of your positions and your roles, and being able to just complement each other's services is very, very powerful. If someone wants to come to you, but they say, "Hey, I don't have any money. I don't know how I would pay for her services." How do you go about that?
Sure. So there is a fee for my service. It's going to depend on, what the case is. So I won't get into that on here. But if, we can talk about that during a consultation. If you're like, mom is in here and we just don't have a way to pay for it, we can do where the client participation comes to me for a couple of months. And then we would apply for unmet medical as long as they're not in the approval area. It has to be outside of the approval area for the client participation to pay it. If mom has the money, this comes out of their spend down, not the child or whoever's helping. It comes out of the individual that's going into the nursing home. It comes out of their spend down because I am qualified for a spend down payment. So there's those options. If there's just no income there or money to be done, I mean the children can group together and do a payment plan with me. I understand that it's a difficult time and there may not be the funds there, so we can figure something out because I don't want them to just be left alone and not have the right guidance.
Right, to figure it out alone, because there's a potential that they just won't, and then it runs into situations where things are just not getting done. Facilities are not getting paid,
Hmm.
housing isn't getting paid, and that's problematic. And
And
so the final question that I have that I think is going to be the most important thing for someone to contact you is, after they contact you or before they contact you, what documents do they need to be able to have that first consult with you, for you to be able to assess, yes, this is where I can help you, this is what we can do. What information do they need to have before that first free consult with you for you to be able to assess?
Sure. So I do have a Medicaid planning checklist, and basically what's on there is for that first call, we're going to want to know what is in their bank accounts, checking and savings, whatever accounts they have, what their income is, any investments that they have. Do they have life insurance? Do they have a home and a vehicle or multiple? And are they a veteran? And that basically kind of gets things started.
And you have told me, I guess I have one more question, that you do have connections with folks that, for like funeral planning and so on and so forth. Can you speak on that a little bit in regards to what you do to help people with those things? Because funeral planning and paying for that is something that can be a part of a spin down that's that can be used. Can you talk about that process a little bit?
Sure. So, yes, I do have an individual that I use. Mom and dad can purchase funeral plans for their children and their children's spouses for a spend down. So, if we have 50, 60,000 that we need to spend down and we're just not quite for sure where we want to do it, it's kind of a different way of giving a child a gift.
It's morbid, but none of us are getting out of here alive.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, and a lot of times the parents are like, yes, let's do that, because they know that they're giving their children something, right? And so we can use that as a spend down. And I have a funeral director that would come right to you, and he writes the paperwork, and he's done it several times, so he knows how to do it according to the state, because they ask for a lot of paperwork for funerals. And the nice thing about those is that they're statewide. So if my mom purchases a funeral plan for me, and then I'm like, I'm out of Iowa, I'm going to Florida, then I can still use that. It's kind of like, here's my gift card for the funeral. And so that's a great way to spend down.
So there's no cruises that you could go take, like family cruises as a spend down?
No, I wish.
I'd rather make a memory than,
Yeah.
plan the morbid funeral. But
I mean, if you want to take me on a cruise.
Right. Not being able to use that. It just sounds so, it is what it is. It's morbid.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to think about it. Nobody wants to think about, here's money for my kids and their spouses die. But it's something that's allowed. It's a gift that you can give.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us are getting out of here alive. So we know that it's going to be used at some point.
Exactly. And the nice thing is that it kind of just, there's that money set aside that you're not going to have to worry about, or your children's going to have to worry about, right? I mean, it's done. So, but yeah, that's one thing that you really want to look at for your parents, is to make sure their funeral plans are paid for, because that's not getting any cheaper. And, they have life insurance. Okay, so are we going to cash that out, or are we going to assign it to the funeral home? So there's just so many ways to do things. And that's why don't try this on your own.
Right. I think there's a lot of myths and misconceptions around all of this. And it's just scary. That's all there is to it, is, even with me going through it with my grandma right now, it's just scary. And you don't know where to start. There's, you have dilemmas, there's ethical dilemmas, there's tough decisions, there's all these things that we have to navigate, and you have to make the right decision, because most likely if you don't, or even if it's an accidental error, you will be penalized. You do have to pay it back. Mm-hmm. They will figure out how to get their money from you. And the one person that you can't get out of paying back, I think, is the government.
Right. Right. And when you're in the mode of, oh my gosh, this is what I have to do, that's when you need me the most, because I can break this all down for you and take care of the things that you don't need to be focusing on and that you can focus on. So I can be that help for you to advocate in more ways than what you know. And when the time comes that they pass, I'm still there for you to help navigate that. Once you're approved, I don't just leave you. Like, you're stuck with me forever. So you better like me, because that's what's happening.
Right. You're going to need to call me. We're lifetime friends.
Yes.
And of course, we both have difficult days, and things get complex and they get emotional. But that's easy for us, rather than those that it's their mom, it's their dad. It becomes a very emotional conversation. And when you have an expert, an industry expert involved, we're able to stick to the facts a little bit more. Mm-hmm. We listen, we hear what they're saying. We're problem solvers, I guess. Wouldn't you say? That's what, right. Just the problem solver of Medicaid and all of the things that are very complicated when it comes to this.
Well, there's even times that I'll get an approval back from the state, and they're like, whoop, we approved them effective April 1st. And it's like, no. They were eligible back in January, and if I don't agree with the approval date, I'll appeal it and go in front of the judge and say, this is where the approval date was, because here's all my my proof of when they were actually eligible. So I advocate a lot for my clients, because they don't need to be doing that. I mean, that's why they're hiring me, number one, and they need to be focusing on mom and dad.
And I don't even think people would know. I mean, there might be some little small line thing on there that says that if you don't agree with this, you can appeal this decision, da da da. But the thought of that for most people is daunting. I'm not going in front of a judge and fighting the hard fight to be able to get this approved back to January. We'll just bite the bullet and, whatever. I
Yeah.
don't think most people have that in there. And that's what you cover that. That's a part
Hmm.
of your business is that when they hire you and they are your client, you're fighting that good fight for them.
Hmm. And there's not enough time in the world to tell you everything that I can do, because like we've said all along, every case is completely different. And there's going to be, issues that we just have to resolve together. And there's somebody that I know that's going to help if I don't know the answer. So that's why the free consultation is there, because we can go over the issues that are there.
Yeah. And just begin the work.
Yep.
Yeah, this has been great. I think that I don't think people know that your business exists. I think people need to know that your business exists. And I
Mhm.
do think that if people are typically willing to pay for a service, if you're taking that load off of their back. I've learned that the hard way and the easy way of if people are usually okay with paying for someone like you to come in and just take care of it for them. If it means less headaches, less hassle, less family dysfunction, all of the things. If you have kids fighting over who's doing what or who's doing more or whatever, this takes all of that out of there. You just pay for a professional to do it, and then you get to stay good at holidays.
That's right. That's right. And if I can
You don't have
walk away,
families not coming.
yeah, if I can walk away helping a family member feeling better of going and sitting at the family dinner table, then not only is my job done, but my gift is done. I mean, this is a gift, and I thank God for it every day, because, you know, everybody is put in their certain spot, and I feel that I'm definitely in my spot. And as long as I'm helping family members and seeing a smile on their face, then I'm good.
Right. And that's really all that matters. Someone recently they were calling about me helping them getting their mom out of their brother's basement and into a nursing home or assisted living, whatever that the mom fell into. And she literally said, "This is a ministry. You're helping people do things that I have been putting this off for years and years and years, and I know it needs to be done, but this is so daunting to think about." And I think that that's probably the consensus of most people is it's so daunting, and it truly probably feels like a ministry to people
Mm-hmm.
because we're doing this for them. We know we're listening, we're hearing, and we're getting to work.
Yes. Yep.
So that might be a ministry, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you have anything else that you want to put out there that you feel like I need people to hear this? I need it.
I don't think so. I mean, if you're on the fence and you're like, "Ugh, I just don't know what to do. Is it time that I start talking?" Who cares if you reach out and we do a quick consultation and, nothing is done, or nothing is done for a couple years. At least there's a game plan and you know what you need to do. And the thing I'm going to say is, if you're thinking, okay, this is what I need to do, go get a folder and start putting stuff in it, and then just put my name on it. Give me a call and we'll break it down. We'll figure it out.
And you meet people where they're at. So you're coming to their kitchen table. Let's give the scenario. Someone has parents that live here in Iowa and they live in California. You'll get on a Zoom call. You'll get on you could even go to their parents' house and have a computer open. So then you're Zooming with their kids while you're sitting at their parents' table. It's that easy to just
Hmm.
start the conversation.
Yes. Yep.
Nobody needs to take off PTO and come here to Iowa to be able to be at their mom's table while they meet with you. It doesn't have to be that complicated. The other thing is, you said you can help everywhere except for Florida. So if someone hears this and they are in New Mexico, they could call you and you could do it. I mean, you're not going to probably be able to show up at the hospital and all of those things, but you can sit here in Iowa and be able to help them in New Mexico, because when we're talking about the government systems, it's all 50 states.
Yeah.
And as far as, your reach, you can help everybody.
Hmm. Yep. I sure can.
Yeah. Okay, your information. Where do they
So,
need to go?
my website is www.seniorplanningsolutions.org. You can email me on there. You can hop onto my website, or you can hop onto my website. You can email me at luann@seniorplanningsolutions.org. Or you can call me at 515-473-2762.
Sure. That easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you
Really
so
helpful.
much. I really enjoyed
Yes.
this.